The call came at 3:47 a.m. I know because I'd been staring at the clock for the past hour, unable to sleep. Something had felt wrong all day. That prickly sensation at the base of my neck that Mom used to call my twin sense. Danny always laughed it off, said I was being dramatic, but I'd felt it when he broke his arm falling off the Henderson's roof when we were 12. Felt it when his patrol car got T-boned during a chase 5 years ago. And I felt it now, electric and insistent, making my skin crawl. When the phone rang, I already knew it would be about him. "Sarah?" The voice was familiar but wrong somehow. Too careful, too soft. It was Captain Rodriguez, Danny's boss at the precinct. "I need you to come down to the station." What happened to him? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Is he hurt? The pause stretched too long. Just, please come down. Use the back entrance. Ask for me directly. The line went dead before I could ask anything else. I sat there in the dark, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the silence. The twin sense wasn't just tingling now, it was screaming. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the precinct parking lot. The building looked different at night, all harsh fluorescence and long shadows. I'd been here hundreds of times over the years, bringing Danny lunch when he forgot it, attending his promotion ceremony, meeting him after shift for drinks with his partner. But I'd never used the back entrance before, never been asked to. Rodriguez met me at the door himself. His usually immaculate uniform was rumpled, his face drawn. He'd aged 10 years since I'd seen him at the department barbecue last month. "Sarah, thank you for coming." He guided me through empty hallways, past the break room where Danny's favorite mug, world's okayest brother, still sat by the coffee maker. "There's something I need to tell you, and I wanted you to hear it from me first." We stopped outside, an interview room. Through the small window, I could see 2 internal affairs detectives I didn't recognize. They had boxes of evidence on the table, photographs spread out like a morbid tarot reading. "Danny's missing," Rodriguez said quietly. "He didn't show up for his shift today, didn't call. We sent units to his apartment." He paused, choosing his words carefully. There were signs of a struggle. Blood. My knees went weak. Rodriguez caught my elbow, steadied me. "But that's not why I called you here." He looked older than his 58 years, shoulders bowed under invisible weight. "Sarah, we found Danny's service weapon at a crime scene, a homicide from 2 nights ago. His fingerprints were on everything. The weapon, the door, the victim's wallet." The world tilted. I heard the words but couldn't process them. "That's impossible." The victim was Marcus Webb. "Does that name mean anything to you?" I shook my head, numb. He was someone Danny arrested 8 years ago. Armed robbery. Webb just got out on parole 6 months ago. Rodriguez's hand was still on my elbow, anchoring me. "Sarah, I've known your brother for 15 years. He's the best cop I've ever worked with. But the evidence is wrong." The words came out sharp, automatic. "Danny he's not capable of." "I know." Rodriguez's voice was gentle, too gentle, the kind of voice you use when delivering terminal news. "But Internal Affairs doesn't. Neither does the DA. They've issued a warrant for his arrest. Every cop in the city is looking for him." I stared through the window at the photographs on the table. Even from here, I could see the violence in them, the dark stains, the unnatural angles, my brother's badge number visible on an evidence marker. "Need you to think," Rodriguez continued. "Has Danny seemed different lately? Stressed? Has he mentioned Webb or anyone from his old cases?" Different. Danny had been Danny, cracking bad jokes, complaining about paperwork, showing up for Sunday. Dinner at my place with beer and terrible movies. 3 days ago, he'd helped me fix my garbage disposal, getting soaked in the process and laughing about it. We'd ordered Chinese food and argued about whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie. How could someone go from that to this? "He was fine," I whispered. He was completely fine. But even as I said it, I remembered the calls he'd been getting. The ones that made him step outside, lowering his voice. The way he'd been checking his locks twice, 3 times. The new gun he'd bought, not his service weapon, something smaller. For backup, he'd said. I'd asked him about it. He'd smiled, ruffled my hair like I was still 10 years old, and told me not to worry. Cop stuff, nothing serious. Sarah, Rodriguez's voice pulled me back. If Danny contacts you, when he contacts you, you need to call me immediately. This is beyond loyalty now. If he's innocent, running makes him look guilty. If he's... He couldn't finish the sentence. Either way, he needs to come in. I nodded, not trusting my voice. IA will want to interview you. You're not obligated to talk to them without a lawyer. I'd recommend you don't. He handed me a business card. This is a good defense attorney, just in case. Just in case. Like my brother was already convicted. I left through the same back door. I'd entered, Rodriguez's warnings echoing in my head. In my car, I sat in the dark parking lot and tried Danny's phone for the dozenth time. Straight to voicemail like it had been all day. Danny, it's me, again. I don't know what's happening, but I'm scared. Just call me back, please. Whatever this is, we can fix it. We always fix it, right? Just call me. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing. Marcus Webb. The name meant nothing to me, but it had meant something to Danny. Enough to keep his case file after 8 years. Enough to know. I wouldn't let my thoughts go there. Not yet. My apartment felt too quiet, too empty. I turned on every light, as if brightness could chase away what was happening. On my kitchen counter, my laptop sat closed. I stared at it for a long moment, then opened it and typed Marcus Webb into the search bar. The results were sparse. A few old news articles about his arrest, Danny's name mentioned as the arresting officer. Webb had robbed 3 convenience stores at gunpoint over a 2-week spree. No one had been hurt, but he'd been carrying enough firepower to change that. 25 to life, reduced to 8 years with good behavior. I dug deeper. Webb had been released to a halfway house in March. No family listed, no employment recorded. He was a ghost with a criminal record, and now he was a dead ghost with my brother's fingerprints all over him. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My heart leaped. Danny? But it wasn't Danny. The voice was female, young, scared. Is this Sarah Chen? Danny's sister? Who is this? My name is Mia. I was... A shaky breath. I was Marcus's girlfriend. I know what this looks like, but your brother didn't kill him. He was trying to help us. The words didn't make sense. Help you? How do you know my brother? It's complicated. Can we meet? I can explain everything, but not over the phone. They might be listening. They. The word sent ice through my veins. Who's they? Tomorrow. Riverfront Park by the Memorial Fountain. Noon. Come alone. Her voice dropped lower. And Sarah, don't trust anyone at that precinct. Not even the ones who claim to be Danny's friends. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, heart hammering. This was insane. My brother was a straight arrow cop who'd never even had a parking ticket. Now he was missing, wanted for murder, and strange women were calling with cryptic warnings about trust and conspiracy. I tried Danny's number again. This time, instead of voicemail, I got an automated message. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. My twin sense wasn't just tingling anymore. It was on fire. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went through every photo on my phone, every text message Danny had sent in the last month, looking for clues I might have missed. There weren't many. Danny had always been more of a caller than a texter, but there were a few that stood out now. 2 weeks ago. Working late again. Rain check on dinner? 10 days ago. Can you feed Burger for me this weekend? Might be out of town. Burger was his ancient tabby cat. Danny never went out of town without planning weeks in advance. 5 days ago. Love you, sis. You know that, right? That last one had seemed weird at the time. Danny wasn't the sentimental type. I'd written back with a joke about him getting soft in his old age. He'd sent back a laughing emoji and nothing else. Now it felt like a goodbye. Dawn came gray and drizzling, Seattle showing its typical February mood. I made coffee I didn't drink, showered without remembering it, and tried to eat toast that tasted like cardboard. At 8 a.m., my phone rang. Captain Rodriguez. IA wants to interview. You at 10, you don't have to. I'll be there. I needed to see those photos, needed to understand what they thought they had on Danny. Sarah, have you heard from him? I thought about the strange call from Mia. No. The lie came easier than I expected. The internal affairs detectives were exactly what you'd expect. Sharp suits, sharper eyes, and the kind of persistent politeness that felt like sandpaper on raw nerves. Detective Louise Harper was mid-40s with steel gray hair and a smile that never reached her eyes. Her partner, Detective James Ewan, was younger, quieter, but watched me like a hawk tracking prey. Thank you for coming in, Ms. Chen, Harper began, sliding a digital recorder between us. This is just an informal conversation. You're not under arrest or suspicion. We're simply trying to locate your brother. To arrest him for murder. I kept my voice level. To question him about his involvement in Marcus Webb's death, Ewan corrected smoothly. Your brother has served this city with distinction for 15 years. We want to give him every opportunity to explain the evidence. Harper opened a folder. When did you last speak with Officer Chen? 3 days ago. He came over to fix my garbage disposal. How did he seem? Normal. He made bad jokes about being a plumber in another life. We ordered Chinese food. He left around 9. Has he mentioned Marcus Webb recently, or any of his old cases? No. Harper slid a photograph across the table. It was Danny's service weapon. I recognized the custom grip he'd had installed. It was covered in evidence markers. This was found at the scene. Can you think of any reason your brother's weapon would be in Marcus Webb's apartment? I stared at the photo, my mind racing. Danny was obsessive about his weapon. He cleaned it religiously, knew where it was every second. He would never, Ms. Chen? No, I can't think of any reason. More photos. The crime scene. Webb face down in a pool of blood. 2 shots to the back of the head, execution style. My stomach churned. Your brother arrested Webb 8 years ago, Ewan said. It was a clean arrest by all accounts. But Webb filed several complaints from prison, claiming Officer Chen planted evidence. This was news to me. Danny never mentioned that. The complaints were investigated and dismissed, Harper added. But Webb was persistent. He wrote letters to the department, to the mayor's office, to journalists. He claimed Officer Chen had a personal vendetta against him. That's ridiculous. Danny didn't even remember the guy's name when I caught myself. Harper leaned forward. When what, Ms. Chen? I'd almost said when he mentioned the old case files he'd been reviewing. But Danny had been looking through old files. I'd seen the boxes in his apartment last month, had teased him about bringing work home. He'd said something about cold cases, keeping his detective skills sharp. Nothing. I misspoke. The detectives exchanged glances. They didn't believe me. Ms. Chen. Ewan pulled out another photo. Do you recognize this woman? It was a surveillance shot, grainy but clear enough. A young woman, early 20s, with dark hair and frightened eyes. Mia. No. Another lie, easier than the last. Her name is Mia Santos. She was Webb's girlfriend. She's also missing. Harper watched my face carefully. We have video of her leaving Webb's building an hour before the shooting, and we have video of your brother's car in the area that same night. My heart sank. Danny's car. His beloved restored Mustang that he babied like a child. There was no mistaking that car. We also have this. Harper produced an evidence bag containing a cell phone. Webb's phone. The last number he called was unlisted, but we traced it to a burner phone. That phone's GPS showed it at your brother's apartment the night Webb died. The evidence was damning, overwhelming, the kind of case Danny himself would have called a slam dunk. But I knew my brother. I knew him like I knew my own heartbeat. Danny didn't kill anyone. I stood up. Are we done here? One more thing. Harper slid a final photo across the table. We found this in your brother's apartment. It was a photograph of a photograph, old, creased, like it had been carried in a wallet for years. 2 boys, maybe 10 or 11, arms slung around each other's shoulders. Both Asian, both grinning at the camera. One of them was unmistakably Danny. I didn't recognize the other boy. That's Marcus Webb, Harper said quietly. Age 11, The photo was in your brother's desk drawer, under his service medals. The world tilted again. Danny had known Webb, not just as a criminal he'd arrested, but before. As a child, as a friend. My voice cracked. I don't understand. Neither do we, Ewan admitted. But it suggests a personal connection your brother never disclosed. That's a problem, Ms. Chen. That's a big problem. I left the interview in a daze. Danny and Webb had known each other as children. How was that possible? Danny had grown up in Tacoma, had moved to Seattle for the academy. He'd never mentioned, but there were gaps. Foster care years he didn't talk about. The time before Mom and Dad adopted him when he was 13. He'd always said it didn't matter, that his life began when he became a Chen. I'd respected that, never pushed. Now those gaps felt like canyons. It was 11:30. Time to meet Mia. Riverfront Park was mostly empty, the drizzle keeping away the usual lunch crowd. I found the memorial fountain easily, a bronze sculpture honoring fallen officers. Danny had brought me here once early in his career to show me the names. This is why we do it, he'd said. So maybe there won't be more names. I sat on a bench and waited. At 12:05, a young woman approached. She looked worse than in the surveillance photo. Hollow-eyed, jumpy, wearing an oversized hoodie that didn't hide how thin she was. Sarah? I nodded. She sat beside me but kept space between us, ready to run. Thank you for coming. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know who else to call. Danny said if anything happened, I should find you. When did he say that? 2 nights ago, before... She swallowed hard. Before Marcus died. Tell me everything, from the beginning. Mia pulled the hoodie tighter. Marcus wasn't a bad person. He made mistakes, yes, but prison changed him. He came out clean, determined to stay that way. But they wouldn't let him. Who's they? The Brotherhood. White supremacist gang. Marcus had refused to join them inside, so they had it out for him. When he got paroled, they were waiting. She rubbed her arms like she was cold. They wanted him to do jobs for them. Said he owed them for protection he never asked for. When he refused, they threatened him? They threatened me. Said they'd hurt me if Marcus didn't play ball. So he went to the only cop he trusted. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. He went to Danny. None of this made sense. Why would he trust Danny? Danny arrested him. Because Danny saved his life first. Mia pulled out her own phone, showed me a photo. It was the same picture IA had shown me. 2 boys, arms around each other. They were in the same foster home, Griffin House. Danny was Jamie then. Jamie Park. He protected Marcus from the older kids, taught him to read. They were like brothers. Jamie Park. The name hit me like a physical blow. Danny had mentioned it exactly once, the day the adoption was finalized. I'm not Jamie anymore, he'd said. I'm Danny Chen, and I finally have a real family. They lost touch when Danny got adopted, Mia continued. Marcus aged out, fell in with the wrong crowd. When Danny arrested him 8 years later, Marcus recognized him immediately. But Danny, Jamie, pretended not to know him. Marcus understood. Danny had a new life, a good life. Marcus didn't want to ruin that. So why reach out now? Because the Brotherhood wasn't just threatening us. They had something bigger planned. Marcus overheard things. A major operation. Something about using cop guns to frame. She stopped, went pale. Oh God, they knew. They must have known Marcus went to Danny. Knew what? What operation? But Mia was already standing, backing away. I have to go. They'll find me. They always find... The shot came from somewhere behind me. Mia's eyes went wide, a red flower blooming on her chest. She looked down at it, surprised, then crumpled. I dropped to my knees beside her, pressing my hands against the wound. No, stay with me. Help! Someone help! But the park was empty. The rain fell harder. Mia's eyes found mine. Find the red house. Her voice was barely a whisper. Danny. Knew. Where? And then she was gone. I heard sirens in the distance, growing closer. Someone must have called 911. I should have stayed, should have waited for them. But Mia's blood was on my hands, and her killers were still out there, and my brother was still missing. I ran. My car was 3 blocks away. I made it halfway before the shaking started. Adrenaline crash, shock, whatever you want to call it. I ducked into a coffee shop bathroom and threw up, then washed Mia's blood off my hands with soap that smelled like artificial lavender. My phone was buzzing. 7 missed calls from Rodriguez, 2 from unknown numbers. I turned it off. They'd have cameras at the park. They'd know I was there. Another piece of evidence in their case against Danny, his sister fleeing a murder scene. The red house. What red house? Danny and I had shared everything, or so I'd thought. But Jamie Park had secrets Danny Chen never told. I drove aimlessly, trying to think. Foster care records were sealed, but there had to be a way to find Griffin. House. To find out who Jamie Park had been before he became my brother. My phone, still off, felt like a bomb in my pocket. They were looking for me now. My car would be flagged. I needed to ditch it, needed to think, The realization hit me so hard I almost drove off the road. Burger, Danny's cat. He'd asked me to feed him if he was out of town. But Danny hadn't gone out of town. He'd gone into hiding. Which meant Burger was alone in the apartment, and Danny, overprotective, obsessive Danny, would never abandon his cat unless he'd left something there for me to find. Danny's apartment building had police tape across the entrance. Of course it did. But I still had the spare key, and I knew the service entrance the delivery drivers used. It was a risk, but everything was a risk now. The apartment was a disaster. Furniture overturned, cushions slashed, drawers emptied onto the floor. The IA detectives had mentioned signs of a struggle, but this wasn't a struggle. This was a search. Someone had been looking for something. Burger? I called softly. Here, kitty. A pathetic meow came from the bedroom. I found him hiding under the bed, orange eyes wide with fear. He crawled out when he recognized me, butting his head against my hand. I know, buddy, I know. Danny's bedroom was even worse than the living room. Mattress flipped, closet emptied, even the ceiling tiles had been pulled down. Whatever they'd been looking for, they'd been thorough. But they didn't know Danny like I did. When we were kids, Danny had been paranoid about anyone touching his stuff. Foster care did that. When you had nothing, you protected what little you had. He'd hidden things everywhere, driven our parents crazy with his secret stashes. The habit had faded over the years, but never completely disappeared. I checked his hiding spots. The false bottom in his sock drawer, empty. The hollow behind the bathroom medicine cabinet, nothing. The gap between the window frame and the wall, my fingers found paper. A single envelope sealed with my name on it in Danny's. Handwriting inside was a key I didn't recognize and an address in Tacoma. Below that, 2 words. Griffin House. The Red House. It had to be. I pocketed the envelope and grabbed Burger's carrier from the closet. I couldn't leave him here and I couldn't go home. We were both fugitives now. The drive to Tacoma took forever. I stopped at a gas station to buy a burner phone, calling in sick to work with some story about food poisoning. My boss sounded suspicious but didn't push. The news probably hadn't broken yet. When it did, everyone would know that sweet Sarah Chen, the kindergarten teacher who brought cookies to bake sales, was wanted for questioning in a murder. The address led me to a neighborhood that had seen better days. Small houses with peeling paint, chain link fences, yards full of broken toys and broken dreams. The red house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, looking exactly like what it was. A place where unwanted kids were warehoused until they aged out or got lucky. It was abandoned now, windows boarded, roof sagging. A faded sign in the yard read, 4. Sale by county. Griffin House had closed years ago. The key Danny left fit the side door. Inside, the house smelled like mold and old sadness. Furniture was still there, covered in dust and sheets. Bunk beds in the upstairs rooms. A dining room with a long table where dozens of kids had eaten state-funded meals. I found Danny's room by instinct. Third floor, end of the hall, overlooking the street. He would have wanted to see threats coming. The room was empty except for a built-in desk and a loose floorboard that practically screamed hiding spot. Under it was a metal box, locked with a combination padlock. I tried Danny's badge number. Nothing. Our birthday. Nothing. Then, on a hunch, I tried the date our parents adopted him. The lock clicked open. Inside were photographs, documents, and a flash drive labeled insurance. The photos showed young Danny, Jamie, with various other kids. Marcus Webb appeared in many of them, usually shadowing Danny like a little brother. There were report cards, both Jamie Parks and Danny Chen's, showing the transformation from a troubled foster kid to an honor student, and there was a letter dated 2 weeks ago in Danny's handwriting. Sarah, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the lies, for the secrets, for putting you in danger, but you need to know the truth. Marcus came to me 3 weeks ago. He was scared, desperate. The Brotherhood had their hooks in him, but it was bigger than just extortion. They've been working with someone inside the department, someone high up. They're planning something big. I don't know what yet, but it involves framing cops for murders, destabilizing the whole system. Marcus had recordings, evidence. He was going to testify, go into witness protection. I was helping him arrange it. Off the books because we didn't know who to trust. But someone found out. They killed Marcus and framed me for it. Now they're coming for anyone who knows the truth. The flash drive has everything Marcus gave me. Get it to FBI agent Patricia Wong. She's clean. I verified it myself. Her number is below. Don't trust anyone else, especially not anyone from our precinct. I'm going dark until I can figure out who's behind this. Don't look for me. Don't try to help. Just get the evidence to Wong and then disappear yourself. Please, Sarah, for once in your life, don't be stubborn. Run. I love you, sis. You gave me a family when I thought I'd never have one. Let me protect that family now. Danny P.S. Take care of Burger. He likes the salmon food, not the tuna, whatever the vet says. I read the letter 3 times, then pocketed the flash drive. My hands were steady now, the shock replaced by cold determination. My brother was out there somewhere, alone, hunted, trying to take down a conspiracy that had already killed 2 people. Like hell I was going to run. I was reaching for the documents when I heard it. A car engine approaching slow. Too slow for someone who belonged in this neighborhood. I peered out the window and saw a black SUV with tinted windows park across the street. Time to go. I grabbed the box and bolted for the stairs. Behind me, I heard the front door splinter open. Heavy footsteps, multiple sets. Check upstairs, a voice commanded. She's here somewhere. I knew that voice. My blood turned to ice. Detective Ewan, Internal Affairs. Detective James Ewan was here. In Tacoma, at a crime scene he had no jurisdiction over, with men who definitely weren't cops. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. The Brotherhood's inside man. It had to be. I made it to the kitchen before they spotted me. The back door was boarded shut. No exit there. But the basement door was open, and basements meant windows, meant maybe another way out. There! Someone shouted. I half ran, half fell down the basement stairs. It was dark, full of old furniture and the detritus of dozens of broken childhoods. I could hear them above me, boots on old wood, coordinating the search. The windows were, all barred. Of course they were. Can't have foster kids sneaking out at night, but in the corner, barely visible, was a coal chute. Old houses had them for heating deliveries. It would be a tight fit, but going somewhere, Miss Chen? Ewan stood at the bottom of the stairs, gun drawn but not quite pointed at me. Yet. Where's my brother? I demanded. Good question. When you find him, let us know. He smiled, and it was nothing like the professional mask he'd worn in the interview room. This was the real Ewan. Cold, predatory, amused. Though I doubt you'll get the chance. You killed Marcus. And Mia. Marcus was going to be a problem. Your brother made him a problem. Ewan took a step closer. 15 years I've been running this operation. 15 years of perfect balance. Then Danny Chen decides to develop a conscience about some foster kid he used to know. So you framed him. I gave him a choice. Walk away, forget what Marcus told him, and live his life. He refused. Another step. Idealistic fool. Just like you, apparently. You should have run when you got the letter. He knew it was you? He suspected. That's why he went to ground instead of coming in. Smart boy. Not smart enough to stay hidden, though. Yuan's smile widened. We found him this morning. Little motel outside Olympia. He fought hard. You Chens always were stubborn. The words hit like physical blows. Found him. Fought hard. Past tense. You're lying. Am I? Check the news later. Decorated cop kills himself rather than face justice. Tragic. His confession note admitting to Webb's. Murder should clear everything up nicely. Rage, white hot and blinding, flooded through me. I lunged at him, forgetting the gun, forgetting everything but the need to hurt him like he'd hurt Danny. The gun went off. Pain exploded through my shoulder, spinning me back. I hit the concrete floor hard, the metal box skittering away into the shadows. Stupid, Yuan said conversationally. He was reaching for zip ties when we both heard it. Sirens. Multiple sirens. Getting closer. One of his men called down. Boss, we got company. Lots of it. Yuan's face went tight. He looked at me, calculating. A wounded woman in a basement took time to clean up. Time he apparently didn't have. Find that box, he ordered his men. Then to me, you got lucky, but we'll find you again. And next time, I won't be so gentle. They were gone in seconds, tires squealing. I lay on the cold concrete, shoulder on fire, listening to the sirens get closer. Had someone called the cops? Had Danny somehow... No, don't hope. Hope was dangerous. Now. I forced myself up, cradling my wounded shoulder. The bullet had gone through cleanly, painful but not immediately life-threatening. I found the metal box, tucked it inside my jacket, and stumbled to the coal chute. It took 3 tries to pull myself up and through. By the time I made it out, I was covered in decades of coal dust and my own blood. But I was out. The sirens were on the next street over, not coming for the Red House at all, just Tacoma PD responding to some other crisis. Yuan had fled for nothing. Laughed, or maybe sobbed. It was hard to tell the difference anymore. Berger was still in my car, meowing pitifully. I climbed in, started the engine with my good hand, and drove. I needed medical attention, but hospitals meant questions. I needed to call FBI agent Wong, but Yuan might be monitoring her too. I needed to find Danny. But if Yuan was telling the truth, no. I wouldn't believe it until I saw a body. Danny was alive. He had to be. I drove until I found a veterinary clinic. Vets had medical supplies and sometimes didn't ask too many questions if you paid cash and had a good story. The young vet tech took one look at me, bloody, coal-covered, crying, and another at Berger in his carrier. Please, I said. Someone hurt my cat and me when I tried to stop them. I can't go to the hospital. My ex will find me there. It was a transparent lie, but she bought it, or pretended to. She cleaned and bandaged my shoulder, gave me antibiotics meant for German shepherds, and didn't call the cops. I left $500 on the counter and fled before she could change her mind. It was dark now. I'd been running for almost 12 hours. I found a motel that still took cash using a fake name and keeping my head down. The room smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams, but it had a bed and a door that locked. I fed Berger, took enough dog antibiotics to hopefully prevent infection, and finally looked at the flash drive Danny had left. It was encrypted, of course. But Danny and I had shared passwords since we were kids. I tried our usual combinations: birthdays, pet names, inside jokes. Nothing worked. Then I remembered. Jamie Park. The boy Danny used to be. I tried variations until I hit it. J Park 0823. August 23rd. The day he'd been placed at Griffin House. The day he'd met Marcus Webb. The drive contained dozens of audio files, photographs, and documents. Marcus had been thorough. The recordings were damning. Brotherhood members discussing operations, mentioning their cop friend who kept them one step ahead. In one recording, Yuan's voice was clear, negotiating prices for confiscated weapons that should have been destroyed. But it was the documents that made my blood run cold. The Brotherhood's plan wasn't just about money or power. They were systematically framing cops for crimes, creating chaos in the department, eroding public trust. The endgame was martial law, a complete breakdown of civil order that they could exploit. And Danny had stumbled right into the middle of it by trying to help an old friend. I copied everything to multiple cloud servers, encrypted and hidden. Then I called Agent Wong's number from my burner phone. Wong. Her voice was crisp, professional. My name is Sarah Chen. My brother is Detective Danny Chen. He told me to call you. Silence. Then, where are you? I have evidence about Detective Ewan and the Brotherhood. Danny said you were clean, that I could trust you. Sarah, listen to me very carefully. Your brother is dead. I know, Ewan told me. My voice didn't break. I was proud of that. But the evidence is real. I need to get it to you. Where are you? She repeated. I'll come to you. Something in her tone made me hesitate, too eager, too focused on my location. I'll call you back, I said, and hung up. Paranoid? Maybe. But paranoia had kept me alive this long. I stared at the burner phone, thinking. Danny had said Wong was clean, but Danny had also been wrong about how deep this went. If Ewan was involved, who else might be? My shoulder throbbed. The veterinary painkillers were wearing off, and I could feel fever starting to build. Infection. Probably. I needed real medical attention soon, but first I needed to think. The motel room's ancient TV was playing local news on mute. I turned up the volume just as my brother's face filled the screen. Manhunt continues for Seattle Police Detective Daniel Chen, wanted in connection with the murders of Marcus Webb and Mia Santos. Chen, a 15-year veteran of the force, is considered armed and extremely dangerous. In a disturbing development, Chen's sister, Sarah Chen, is also wanted for questioning after being seen fleeing the scene of Santos's murder. They showed my school photo, the one where I was smiling holding a Teacher of the Year certificate. Then they showed park surveillance footage, grainy but clear enough to see me running from Mia's body. Police believe the siblings may be working together. If you see either of them, do not approach. Call 911 immediately. I turned off the TV, hands shaking. We were being painted as killers, conspirators. By tomorrow, our faces would be everywhere. Burger meowed from his carrier, probably hungry again. I opened a can of cat food one-handed, whispering apologies for the cheap brand. He didn't seem to mind, wolfing it down like he hadn't eaten in days. Just you and me now, buddy, I told him, but I'm going to fix this, somehow. My phone, my real phone, still turned off, felt like a lead weight in my pocket. I knew I should destroy it, but it was my last link to my real life. To the person I'd been 12 hours ago. I turned it on long enough to check for messages. Dozens of missed calls, texts from colleagues, friends, parents. Mom's message broke me. Sarah, sweetie, what's happening? The police were here. They said terrible things about Danny, about you. Please call me. We love you both. We know you didn't do these things. Please come home. I wanted to call her, to hear her voice, to let her tell me everything would be okay, like she had when we were kids with skinned knees and broken hearts. But I couldn't put her in danger. Ewan had already killed 2 people. I wouldn't add my parents to that list. I was typing a reply. I love you. Trust Danny. Stay safe. When another text came through. Unknown number. Sarah, it's me. I'm okay. Don't believe the news. Meet me where we caught fireflies. Midnight. Come alone. Trust no one else. My heart stopped. Danny. It had to be Danny. The Firefly Place. Whispering Pines Campground, where our family used to go every summer, where Danny and I would sneak out of our tent with mason jars, trying to catch enough fireflies to make a lantern. But Ewan had said they found him. Said he was dead. What if this was a trap? What if it wasn't? I had 3 hours to decide. 3 hours to figure out if my brother was alive or if I was walking into my own execution. I decided to use the time productively. First, I needed medical supplies. The veterinary clinic had done their best, but the wound was already showing signs of infection. I found a 24-hour pharmacy far from the motel, bought bandages and antibiotics with cash while keeping my head down and hood up. Back in the car, I uploaded Danny's evidence to 3 more cloud servers, then emailed links to journalists at The Times, The Post, and The Guardian. I set them to send automatically in 48 hours unless I canceled them. Insurance. Then I drove toward Whispering Pines, taking back roads, doubling back twice to check for tails. The campground was closed for the season, gates chained shut. But Danny and I knew another way in, a deer path we'd discovered as kids. I parked a mile away and walked, Burger protesting in his carrier. My shoulder screamed with every step, and I was definitely running a fever now, but I pushed through. The campground was a ghost town in February, all shadows and memories. I found our old campsite by muscle memory more than sight. The fire pit where Dad had burned countless marshmallows. The tree where I'd carved SC plus DB churned siblings for EVR when I was 9. No one was there. I checked my watch. 11:47. Early, but not by much. I found a hiding spot with good sightlines and settled in to wait. At 11:58, I heard footsteps. Slow, careful, someone trying to move quietly through winter underbrush. Sarah? The voice was Danny's, but wrong. Hoarse. Pained. He stepped into the moonlight, and I bit back a gasp. His face was a mess of bruises. His left arm hung wrong, definitely broken. He moved like every step hurt, but he was alive. I started to rush to him, then stopped. Something felt off. Danny saw my hesitation and smiled sadly. Smart girl. Always. We're smarter than me. He held up his good hand, showing empty palms. It's really me. Remember when you were 7 and fell off your bike? You made me promise not to tell Mom because you'd been riding in the street. I kept that promise. Only Danny knew that story. I ran to him then, careful of his injuries. He was solid, real, alive. We held each other, both crying, both afraid to let go. They said you were dead, I whispered. Almost was. Ewan's boys are thorough. But I had help getting away. He pulled back, studying my face. You're hurt. Shot. Ewan. At Griffin House. Of course you went there. He shook his head. I told you to run. Since when do I listen to you? That got a ghost of his. Old smile. Then it faded. Sarah, it's worse than I thought. Ewan isn't working alone. The conspiracy goes all the way up. The chief, the mayor's office, maybe higher. They're going to... He stopped, head tilting. Listening. I heard it too. Engines. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. Go. Danny shoved me toward the trees. They tracked me. Stupid. I was so stupid. Spotlights blazed to life, turning night into harsh day. A voice boomed over a megaphone. Daniel Chen, Sarah Chen, you are surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. We were trapped. The woods we knew so well were suddenly a cage. Danny looked at me, and I saw him make a decision. Give me the evidence, he said quickly. I'll turn myself in. Take the fall. You run. Get to the media. Get it published before they can stop you. No. Sarah? We're family. We stick together. He laughed. Broken, but real. God, you're stubborn. Learned from the best. The megaphone crackled again. You have 30 seconds. Danny took my hand with his good one. Whatever happens, I'm glad you're my sister. Always, I said. We walked out together, hands raised. The spotlights were blinding. I counted at least a dozen vehicles. SWAT vans, patrol cars, unmarked sedans. They'd brought an army for 2 injured fugitives. Down on the ground! Now! We complied slowly. Danny couldn't use his broken arm, and my shoulder felt like it was full of broken glass. They swarmed us, rough hands forcing us flat, zip ties cutting into wrists. Where's the evidence? Someone hissed in my ear. Ewan. Where is it? I turned my head enough to see him. His mask of professionalism was gone, replaced by desperate fury. Safe, I said, and scheduled to release to every major newspaper, if I don't stop it. His face went white. You're bluffing. Want to bet your career on that? Your freedom? He raised his hand to hit me, then caught himself. Too many witnesses. Too many real cops who didn't know what their colleague really was. Book them, he said, instead. Separate vehicles, separate facilities. They hauled us to our feet. Danny was limping badly, and I could see blood seeping through his shirt. Whatever help he'd had escaping hadn't included medical attention. Danny needs a hospital, I said loudly. He's injured. Shut up, one of the officers growled. But another cop, younger, looked troubled. She's right, he looks bad. He's fine, Ewan snapped. Get them out of here! They were loading Danny into a van when everything went wrong. The first shot came from the woods. It took out a spotlight, plunging half the clearing into darkness. Then more shots, controlled bursts that sent cops scrambling for cover. Ambush, we're under fire! I hit the ground, hands still zip-tied behind me. Through the chaos, I saw figures in tactical gear emerging from the tree line. Not cops. Brotherhood? FBI? I couldn't tell. Someone cut my zip ties. Stay down, a woman's voice ordered. Then she was gone, joining the firefight. I crawled to where I'd last seen Danny. His van was empty, doors hanging open. Blood on the seat. No sign of him or his guards. Danny! I screamed into the chaos. More shots. Someone screaming. A van exploded, throwing me flat again. My ears rang, vision blurred. Through the smoke and confusion, I saw Ewan dragging himself. Toward his car, leg bleeding. Our eyes met across the chaos. His hand went to his weapon. Then someone stepped between us. A woman in FBI tactical gear, weapon trained on Ewan. Detective Ewan, you're under arrest for conspiracy, murder, and about 30 other charges I'll list when my ears stop ringing. It was Agent Wong. The real Agent Wong, I realized. The voice on the phone had been wrong because it hadn't been her at all. Ewan raised his weapon. Wong shot him twice, center mass. He dropped like a stone. Clear, someone shouted. We've got them all. The firefight was over as suddenly as it had begun. FBI agents were everywhere, securing weapons, treating, wounded, establishing a perimeter. Wong knelt beside me. Sarah Chen? I'm Agent Patricia Wong. Your brother sent me a message 2 days ago. Told me to monitor this place tonight. She helped me sit up. Where is he? I don't know. He was in the van. Then I looked around desperately. Danny! But he was gone. In the chaos, someone, friend or foe, had taken my brother. Wong's team searched, but found only blood trails leading in 3 different directions. By dawn, they'd processed the scene, arrested a dozen Brotherhood members and dirty cops, and confirmed what I already knew. Danny had vanished. Again. They took me to the FBI field office for debriefing. A doctor cleaned and properly treated my shoulder while I told my story over and over. Wong confirmed that Ewan had been under investigation for months, but they'd lacked evidence to move. Your brother provided that evidence, she said. His information, combined with what you uploaded, gives us everything we need. The conspiracy is unraveling. Arrests are happening across the state. But Danny's still missing. We'll find him. Wong promised. But her eyes said what her mouth wouldn't. In his condition, Danny might not have long. They put me in protective custody, a safe house with agents who were kind but firm about me not leaving. I watched the news obsessively as the story broke. Corrupt cops, white supremacist infiltration, a conspiracy that reached into City Hall. Danny and I were cleared of all charges, painted as heroes who'd risked everything to expose the truth. But Danny was still gone. 3 days passed. They found more blood at a closed rest stop 50 miles away. Danny's according to DNA. No body, no witnesses, just blood and silence. On the 4th day, I was sitting with Berger, staring at nothing, when my burner phone rang, the one only Danny knew about. Hello? Breathing, labored, pained. Danny? Hey, sis. His voice was barely a whisper. Sorry I missed your birthday. My birthday was 6 months away. Code. He was trying to tell me something. That's okay. I played along. Where are you? Remember where you gave me that terrible birthday present? The singing fish? I remembered. A cabin our family had rented one summer. I'd bought him a big mouth billy bass at a yard sale, thinking it was hilarious. He'd pretended to love it. I remember. Good. Good memories there. A wet cough. Love you, Sarah. Tell Mom and Dad. Danny, let me come get you. You're hurt. Too late for that. Another cough. Just wanted to hear your voice. One more time. Danny, the line went dead. I was on my feet, grabbing my jacket, when Wong appeared. I need to go, I said. Sarah, you can't. He's dying. The words ripped out of me. My brother is dying alone in some cabin because he's too stubborn or too scared to let anyone help him. I'm going. Wong studied me for a long moment. Then she grabbed her keys. I'll drive, she said. The cabin was 3 hours away, up winding mountain roads still slick with winter snow. Wong drove like a professional, which she was, while I navigated from memory and prayer. We found him on the cabin's porch, propped against the door like he'd been trying to get inside. Blood everywhere, still breathing, but barely. Danny. I dropped beside him, pressing my hands against the worst of the wounds. Stay with me. Help's coming. His eyes fluttered open. Sarah, you came. Of course I came, you idiot. We're family. Wong was already on her radio, calling for medical evacuation. 20 minutes, she told me. 20 minutes. I'd kept pressure on worse wounds in my first aid training. I could do this. Talk to me, I told Danny. Stay awake. Tired, he mumbled. So tired. Remember when we were kids? I said desperately. That first Christmas after the adoption? You were so scared Mom and Dad would change their minds, send you back. You stayed awake all Christmas Eve, guarding your presents like they might disappear. A ghost of a smile. You stayed up with me. Someone had to make sure you didn't open them early. Tears were streaming down my face, but my hands stayed steady. And in the morning, when you finally believed it was real, that you were home for good, you gave me your favorite present, that stupid stuffed dinosaur you'd carried everywhere. Mr. Rex, he whispered. You still have him? On my bookshelf. Standing guard. The sound of helicopters in the distance. You hear that? Help's coming. You're going to be okay. Sarah? His hand found mine, weak but warm. If I don't, you will. But if I don't, tell them. Tell Mom and Dad I'm sorry. For the secrets. For everything. Tell them yourself. The helicopter touched down in the clearing, medics rushing out with a stretcher. They moved me aside gently but firmly, working with practiced efficiency. I heard medical terms I didn't understand, saw them start IVs, heard one mutter about blood loss and transport time. They loaded him up, and Wong pulled me back as the helicopter lifted off. He's strong, she said. He'll make it. I watched the helicopter disappear into the gray sky, carrying my brother away. Alive, but barely. After everything, the conspiracy, the murders, the frame-up, it might be blood loss that killed Danny, Chen Jamie Park, my brother, whatever name he wore. Wong drove me to the hospital. We sat in the waiting room for 6 hours while surgeons tried to save Danny's life. My parents arrived at hour 3, Mom crying, Dad stone-faced but holding her hand. They didn't ask questions, just held me while we waited. At hour 6, a surgeon emerged. Blood on his scrubs, exhaustion in his eyes. He's alive, he said, and we all sagged with relief. Critical, but stable. The next 24 hours will tell us more. But he's a fighter. They let us see him briefly. Tubes and machines everywhere, keeping him alive. He looked small in the hospital bed, nothing like the tough cop who'd protected the city for 15 years. I took his hand, careful of the IVs. You're home, I whispered. You're safe. We've got you. Maybe he heard me, maybe not. But I swore his fingers tightened just a little around mine. The story didn't end there, of course. There were trials, testimonies, a massive overhaul of the Seattle Police Department, dozens of arrests, from street-level Brotherhood thugs to city officials who'd looked the other way. The conspiracy Danny had uncovered was larger than anyone had imagined, a cancer that had been growing for years. Danny testified from his hospital bed, then from a wheelchair, finally standing on his own 2 feet to point out the men who'd tried to kill him. He was the star witness, the hero cop who'd risked everything for justice. But at night, when the cameras were off and the lawyers went home, he was just my brother, haunted by the friend he couldn't save, by the violence that had followed him, from foster care to the police force to that blood-soaked cabin. "I should have told you," he said one evening, 6 months after it all began. We were at my apartment, sharing Chinese takeout and watching Burger chase a laser pointer. Danny's left arm still didn't work quite right, and he'd never be cleared for active duty again, but he was alive. About Jamie, about Marcus, about all of it. "Why didn't you?" He thought for a long moment. "I guess I wanted Danny Chen to be real. The good son, the good cop, the good brother. I wanted to leave Jamie Park buried in that red house." He smiled sadly. "But the past doesn't stay buried, does it?" "No," I agreed. "But that's okay, because Jamie Park saved Marcus once, even if he couldn't save him again. And Danny Chen saved a whole city from corruption. They're both you. They're both my brother." "When did you get so wise?" "When my idiot brother almost died and made me realize that secrets are just fear with a fancy name. I stole his egg roll." "No more secrets, Danny. Deal?" "Deal." He stole it back. "But I'm still not telling you where I hid your birthday present." "That's different. That's just being annoying." We bickered and laughed and pretended things were normal. And maybe in that moment, they were. The conspiracy was broken. The bad guys were in jail. My brother was alive and stealing my food. But late that night, after Danny had gone home, I stood at my window and watched the city lights. Somewhere out there, another Marcus Webb was being pressured by another gang. Another dirty cop was making a deal. Another conspiracy was being born. The work never ended. The fight for justice was never truly won. But we'd won this round. And sometimes, that had to be enough. My phone buzzed, a text from Danny. "Thanks for not giving up on me," I typed back. "Never have, never will. That's what family does." 3 dots appeared showing he was typing. Then, "Love you too, sis, even if you do steal my egg rolls." I smiled, turning away from the window. Tomorrow there would be more depositions, more trials, more attempts to untangle the web of corruption we'd uncovered. But tonight, my brother was alive and texting me about Chinese food. For now, that was everything. The official report would say that Detective Daniel Chen and his sister Sarah Chen were instrumental in exposing the largest police corruption scandal in Seattle history. It would detail the evidence, the arrests, the reforms that followed. It would paint us as heroes. But the truth was simpler and more complex. We were just a brother and sister who'd refused to let go of each other, even when the whole world tried to tear us apart. We were foster kid Jamie Park and teacher Sarah Chen, choosing family over fear, truth over safety. We were survivors, fighters, family. And in the end, that made all the difference. Burger meowed from his perch on the couch, demanding attention. I scratched behind his ears, thinking about everything we'd been through. Danny's cat had witnessed murder, fled crime scenes, hidden in cheap motels. Now he was back to being a spoiled house cat, his biggest concern whether I'd bought the salmon food Danny insisted on. My shoulder still ached sometimes, especially when it rained. The scar was ugly but fading. Danny said it made me look tough. I said it made me look like someone who'd been stupid enough to charge a man with a gun. We were both right. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I checked the peephole, habit now, after everything, and saw Danny standing there with a pizza box and a 6-pack of beer. "Thought you might want company," he said when I opened the door. "Big trial starts tomorrow." The trial. Ewan's fellow conspirators, the ones who'd survived the raid. Danny would testify, so would I. We'd relive the whole nightmare in careful, legal detail, answering questions designed to trip us up, facing men who'd wanted us dead. Yeah, I said, stepping aside to let him in. Company sounds good. We ate pizza and drank beer and didn't talk about tomorrow. Instead, Danny told me about his physical therapy, how he was thinking about teaching at the academy when he was stronger. I told him about my kids at school, how they'd made him get well cards during my absence, how one had asked if my brother was secretly Batman. What did you tell him? Danny asked, grinning. That Batman wishes he was as cool as my brother. Smooth. I'm a teacher. I specialize in creative truth. We were halfway through the pizza when Danny said quietly, I went to see Marcus's grave yesterday. I put down my slice, waiting. Bought him flowers. Lilies. He always liked lilies. Danny stared at his beer bottle. Told him I was sorry. For not saving him when we were kids. For not saving him now. Danny, I know what you're going to say. That it wasn't my fault. That I did everything I could. He looked up at me. But he's still dead, Sarah. Mia's dead. Other people got hurt because I tried to do the right thing. No, I said firmly. They're dead because UN and the Brotherhood killed them. Because corruption and hate and greed killed them. You tried to stop it. That's all anyone can do. Is it enough? I thought about Mia dying in my arms, about Marcus, who'd just wanted to escape his past, about all the victims we'd never know about. It has to be, I said finally, because the alternative is giving up. And Chens don't give up, remember? Stubborn. To the end, Danny agreed, raising his beer. To Marcus. To Mia. To everyone who fights even when they know they might lose. To family, I added, clinking my bottle against his. Blood or chosen. To family, he echoed. We finished the pizza and beer, then watched terrible action movies until midnight. Danny crashed on my couch, Burger curled up on his chest. I covered them both with a blanket, smiling at the sight. My brother and his cat, safe in my living room. 6 months ago, I thought I'd never see this again. I went to my bedroom but didn't sleep. Tomorrow, we'd walk into that courtroom and face the men who'd tried to destroy us. We'd tell our story again, submit to cross-examination, relive the worst days of our lives. But we'd do it together. Danny and I, side by side, telling the truth about what happened when a good cop tried to help an old friend and uncovered a conspiracy that nearly killed us both. The city had given Danny a medal for his service. The mayor had made speeches about integrity and justice. But Danny had put the medal in a drawer and never looked at it again. Medals didn't bring back the dead. Speeches didn't erase the scars. What mattered was that we'd survived. That the truth had come out. That some kind of justice, imperfect as it was, had been served. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. My blood ran cold, even after. Everything, unknown numbers still made me panic. But when I opened it, it was just a photo. A young Danny, Jamie, and Marcus at Griffin House building a fort out of couch cushions. They were maybe 9 years old, grinning at the camera, safe in their improvised castle. The message below read, "Found this cleaning out Marcus's apartment. Thought you should have it. He talked about your brother all the time, said Danny was the only person who ever made him feel like he mattered. Thank you for fighting for the truth. Marcus's cousin." I saved the photo to my phone, then forwarded it to Danny. He'd want it, even if it hurt to see. Especially because it hurt to see. We couldn't save Marcus or Mia, but we could remember them. We could honor them by telling their story, by making sure their deaths meant something. Outside, Seattle slept on, unaware that tomorrow's trial would expose more of the rot beneath its surface. But also unaware of the heroes who'd fought that rot, not just Danny and me, but Marcus, who'd risked everything to do the right thing. Mia, who died trying to warn us. Agent Wong, who'd believed us when no one else would. Even the vet tech, who'd patched me up without asking questions. Heroes came in all forms. Sometimes they wore badges. Sometimes they were kindergarten teachers who refused to abandon their brothers. Sometimes they were ex-cons trying to escape their past. What mattered was that they fought, that they stood up, that they refused to let the darkness win. I finally drifted off to sleep, thinking about tomorrow's testimony. In the living room, I could hear Danny snoring softly, Burger purring in harmony. My little makeshift family, safe for one more night. Tomorrow would be hard. The trial would be brutal. The memories would hurt, but we'd face them together, Danny and I, brother and sister, cop and teacher, survivors of a conspiracy that had tried to tear us apart but had only made us stronger, because that's what family does. They show up. They fight. They refuse to let go, even when the whole world is trying to